So my name is Olga Trapeznikova. I represent a group of researchers with our leader Alexey Viktorov, and my report title is Probabilistic Behavior Modeling of Morphometric Parameters for Thermokarst Plane with Fluvial Erosion in Cryolithozone. So the research aims to consider the patterns of changing morphometric characteristics of thermokarst planes with fluvial erosions and their interrelations. Thermokarst planes with fluvial erosions are slightly undulating subhorizontal areas covered by tundra vegetation, interspersed with lakes, as you see here, and haceres. Haceres are the drained thermokarst lakes. The plains are cut by rather rare fluvial erosion network. So the lakes of isometric, often roundish shape are randomly scattered across the plain. Haceres, the drain lakes, are also isometric flat bottom and flattened peaty depressions covered with meadow or bog vegetation. Like the lakes, they are randomly distributed across the plain. Typical morphometrical parameters of the thermokarst plains with fluvial erosion include location density of lakes, location density of haceres, the average area of lakes, the average area of haceres, lake area percentage, location density of fluvial sources. Changing the morphometric parameters is complicated. Such processes as thermokarst, thermoabrasion, and thermoerosion, being complex interrelation, affect the whole area. As a result, new initial thermokarst depressions appear. Different thermokarst depressions grow independently on each other as lakes or ponds due to thermoabrasion. At a random moment, a lake can be drained by fluvial erosion and it transforms into a hacere. At that, its growth stops because of the absence of water. Thus, every lake goes through a complex cycle of changes. It appears as a primary depression at a random time, then it expands due to thermal abrasion under the random factors and eventually transforms into a hacere because of erosional drainage. This process change the mentioned above morphometric parameters and raising the following questions. What are the laws ruling the analyzed parameters? What are the dynamics of the analyzed parameters for a long time of the development? Are the examined parameters related to each other? We can solve these problems using a mathematical model of the morphological pattern for the studied landscapes. The model takes into account the following assumptions. Appearance of initial thermokarst depressions during the non-overlapping time intervals and non-overlapping sites are independent random events. The probability of a depression to appear depends only on the size of the segment of the site. Radius of an appeared thermokarst depression is a random variable, being a time function. It is independent of other lakes, and the growth rate is directly proportional to heat storage in the lake water. In the course of its growth, a lake can transform into a hacere under draining by the erosion network. Probability of this does not depend on development of other lakes. If it happens, the depression stops to grow. The appearance of new sources of fluvial erosion within a randomly selected area is a random event, and its probability depends only on the area. New lakes do not appear within the already existing thermokarst lakes. So as we have revealed in our previous studies, the model gives us the following expression. The distribution of the initial thermokarst depression obeys the Poisson law. Areas and radii of lakes have log normal distribution during free growth without draining by fluvial source. The simplest characteristics are the number of lakes and the number of Hasserays within a random plot. Since the probability for a lake to transform into a Hasseray does not depend on its location, the distribution of either lakes or Hasserays within a test plot is a Poisson at any moment. The analysis of the model gives us the data concerning other characteristics. The assumption of the model that the new depressions appear only outside the existing lakes means that a variable density of generation of the depression is Z1. Another result of our analysis concerns the distribution of distances to the nearest river source. It is a Rayleigh distribution. Thus, these two dependencies allow us to consider both the lake drainage and the impossibility of new thermokarst depressions within the existing lakes. Thus, we get formulas for lake radius distribution. Here it is. And besides the average lake area and lake location density for any time. At last, using the dependency of the lake area percentage from the average lake area and average lake location density, we get an integral equation describing the dynamics of the lake area percentage. Let us examine the area distribution of the thermokarst lakes after a long time of development. We can show that for a wide spectrum of conditions, the integral equation for the lake area percentage has a limit equal to the solution of the following equation. Here it is. So the main conclusion is, after a sufficiently long time since the start of the thermokarst process, a certain stable state appears under a wide spectrum of conditions. A dynamic balance is established between two processes, the process of thermokarst lake origination and their transformation into Hasserays. In this case, the following relations exist: the limit value for lake location density and the limit value for average lake area, as well as the limit distribution for lake areas, which obeys the integral exponential distribution, and the limit area distribution for Hasserays that fits the exponential distribution. We have done the empirical testing of the theoretically obtained conclusions about the behavior of the morphometric parameters. The testing involved 17 key sites. You can see all of them on this map, typical for the thermokarst plains with fluvial erosion. These key sites are situated in different natural environments, as you can see. Here you can see some space images of them. We used repeated remote sensing data for our testing. The first date of the imagery comes from the archive Corona Imagery from 1965 to 1976. The second date includes recently imagery of Sentinel-2A from 2017-2018, and resource P, Iconus, QuickBird, Worldview 2, GeoEye from 2008 and 2014. So we checked the agreement of empirical distributions with the theoretical ones by Pearson criteria. Here you see the table with our results. The empirical data of the thermokarst lakes from the key sites include samples from 62 to 598 issues. The empirical distributions fit the integral exponential distribution for 10 key sites from 17 key sites, 59% of the second date, and 5 key sites of 11, 45% of the first date. Here you can see our results for these sites. At the same time, the log-normal distribution characterized the area distribution of the thermokarst lathes at 8 key sites of 17 on the second date. For 3 key sites of these 17, the empirical distributions of the thermokarst lakes areas obey both the gamma and log-normal distributions. This situation can be explained by 2 reasons. At the first stage, the thermokarst plane with fluvial erosion were just lacustrine thermokarst planes, since the probability of lake drainage was small due to their small size. This causes the log-normal distribution of the lake's areas. The integral exponential distribution is a limit distribution at time tends to infinity, while the time since the start of the thermokarst process is long but finite. I should mention that typical lacustrine thermokarst planes without fluvial drainage generally the lake areas distribution fit the log-normal distribution only. The testing also confirmed the correspondence of the Hassary area distribution to the exponential distribution as it is shown on these graphs. So, my conclusions. The mathematical model fitting the asynchronous start of the thermokarst process and the lake growth rate proportional to heat losses through the site surface is relevant for the most of the homogeneous sections of the thermokarst plane with fluvial erosion in different natural environments. The mathematical model of the morphological pattern for the thermokarst planes with fluvial erosion makes it possible to substantiate theoretically and empirically confirm the important relationships between various morphometric parameters in different physiographical conditions. We have shown that the behavior of the thermokarst lake areas within the thermokarst plane with fluvial erosion obeys the integral exponential distribution, and that of the Hassary areas to exponential 1. The morphological pattern of the thermokarst plane with fluvial erosion can be in the state of the dynamic balance. Natural risk assessments and prognosis studies should take it into account. So here you can see the book where we published our previous results. Its title is Mathematical Morphology of Cryolithozone Landscapes. It was published in 2016. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.